Welcome to Winning Packaging Solutions for E-commerce Grocery. I'm Lisa Pierce, the Executive Editor of Packaging Digest, and I have to say I have the best job in the whole wide world. I've been a packaging media editor for more than 40 years, and yes, 40 years, I see your expression. And I can say that I have never been bored, not even a single day, because packaging is the most dynamic industry to cover as a journalist. So happy to have the career that I have. Happy and lucky to have the career that I have. Our agenda for today is we're going to do a very quick definition of what we mean by e-commerce grocery. I'll do a little bit of a market overview and some of the drivers that we're seeing. We'll talk about the unique packaging challenges for e-commerce grocery, and then do some examples of what we're seeing as good examples. And actually, believe it or not, I've got one that I'm a little disappointed about that I want to show you. And then we're going to finish up with talking about what I see as coming for the future in e-commerce grocery very specifically. So what do we mean by e-commerce grocery? So we mean meal kits like HelloFresh and Plate. There's a ton of meal kits. Some are local to an area and some are national. We also mean diet management, and this could be something like Jenny Craig or Nutrisystem, diet management companies like that. We also have our e-tailers, and these could be big ones like Amazon. It could be smaller ones too that maybe are a little market specific, like pet food only, things like that. And then we have grocery stores, what I would consider a little bit more at the local level for the grocery stores. And I do want to say that within e-commerce grocery, we are talking about door-to-door delivery as well as door-to-locker, which is another option that some of these companies are offering to some customers these days. And I don't know if you're aware or not of the difference. One of the reasons why packaging for e-commerce is something that needs attention is that the environment, the shipping environment for small parcel is much different than the typical unitized pallet loads that we see for the vast majority of retail products as how it's being packaged and distributed here in the United States. So I'm talking about both of those, and I'm sorry, door-to-door and door-to-locker, both of those. And also the way that the delivery is done also matters because of, in the future, the discussion that we'll have around reusable packaging as well. So a quick overview of the market. We saw a huge spike during the pandemic in first quarter 2020. You see the chart go up there. And since then, it's somewhat leveled out, but you can see if you were to continue that blue line along the way, we're pretty much at the same trajectory as we had been prior to the pandemic. And I do want to point out that these numbers here, this chart here, is talking about e-commerce in general, not just the grocery segment of it. So we hit a magic number in 2022, and that magic number was $1 trillion for e-commerce. Again, total sales, not just grocery, but look at that. And so what I wanted to point out here, even though we talked about that huge spike, which again you see for 2020 pandemic related, I also just wanted to point out that this, you see the decline for 2022 as far as the total sales for e-com, and the lowest percentage growth number that we've seen in more than a decade. But the chart on your right shows that even though this is the smallest growth that e-commerce has seen in more than a decade, it's still at a higher rate than total retail sales. So e-commerce is still growing faster than total retail sales. And those were the numbers here for 2022, as we had seen, topped 1 trillion. The percentage of total sales in 2022 for e-commerce was about 21%. And so far, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce, in the first quarter of 2023, that total e-tail sales represented about 15.1% of total retail sales. So we're seeing it's slowing, but again, first quarter of the year is not the big sales period. Once we get into holiday season, we'll see that number and that growth percentage change. So what's driving this market? We have actually 3 main reasons that I see. The first one, now you already know what the second one is. Anyway, the first one is the pandemic. As I already mentioned, we saw that spike in there. And one of the things about the pandemic is that a lot of the reasons that people were slow to embrace e-commerce totally disappeared during the pandemic. They were almost forced into using e-commerce because we were, in lockdown and trying to stay away from other people. So a lot of people who were forced to use e-commerce realized that maybe the deterrence that they thought was there really wasn't. And so you would think that if they had the option after their pandemic to no longer use it, they would, but they found that they really liked it. And so getting into reason number 2 and 3 are some of the reasons why they're continuing to use e-commerce for shopping. And one of them is technology. Anybody know how easy it is? While I'm talking to you guys here, I literally could buy something from Amazon and have it delivered yet today if I really wanted to, especially if I had something waiting in my cart. Anyway, so technology has gotten so much easier for both shopping, which is important, as well as for the ordering. And the third reason that we see is the convenience of it. It is so easy to do it. But I do have to say that from a convenience angle, one thing to remember is that just in general, convenient packaging, often sales of products that are convenient products, especially with the packaging being convenient, sometimes lose a little bit of their allure during a downturn in the economy, because the assumption is that you're paying for that convenience, and if you're watching your money, sometimes it's at the, you have to give up the convenience to make budget or whatever. But I have to say that with the price of gas these days, that convenience aspect might just be a wash. I don't know, stay at home and order online, have it delivered to you. If you've got, Amazon Prime, you're not paying for delivery. So is that better than getting in the car and spending money on gas and your time and all of that? It's a value proposition that consumers continue to make that decision as they go along. So right now I wanted to do a very informal poll and ask you to play with me here. So we've talked about some of the reasons why e-commerce grocery is growing, but I want to explore maybe some of the reasons why people aren't taking advantage of e-commerce grocery. So give you enough time to read through your 3 choices. I would like you, by a show of hands, to pick just one and we'll do one at a time and just see what the response is. So I've been slow to use e-commerce for grocery because I worry about food safety. Okay, I'm the only one. All right. The cost is too high. Okay, all right. I don't see the value in it. Okay, excellent. And I know those last two are sort of related. The cost is too high and you don't see the value. Just a little bit different than that, but that's very interesting. So just for everybody else to know, it was the big one was the cost was too high, don't see the value in it, and then I was the lone one to worry about food safety. But as we get into my presentation, I might change some of your minds for you to worry a little bit more about food safety. All right, so now very quickly I wanted to just go through some of the challenges within this unique area of the retail market. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is temperature control and monitoring. And again, to me, this is connected to the food safety aspect of things. And did I mention there I'm going to talk about 3 challenges, just so you know what's coming? So within the shipping markets for temperature controlled, there's a lot that has already been developed from a packaging point of view and a shipment point of view within the pharmaceutical market. I wasn't sure if you guys knew that or not. So the International Safe Transit Association, also known as ISTA, puts on an annual conference, TransPack, and part of that is TempPack, where they really go through a lot of the developments and challenges that are happening within the temperature control market. Excuse me. So within that, within those developments, there's been a lot that has already been put together for healthcare. And if you think of the safety aspect, it's absolutely critical for healthcare products. We're talking organs and pharmaceuticals. The vaccine issue that we had through the pandemic of making sure that the vaccine was kept at proper temperature throughout the process, throughout the shipment, to make sure that it was useful. The next challenge that we have is, you know, any challenge that you have with packaging, it's supposed to protect the product, of course. Some of the unique things that you have for e-commerce in general, and e-commerce grocery specifically, are the product baskets and the different types of products that can be included in a single order. You can have perishables with shelf-stable products. You can have heavy metal cans that you ordered with a bag of chips. And from a packing and shipping point of view, those present some challenges, obviously. And I'll show you an example a little bit later, specifically for this application here. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is from an e-commerce, what is a little bit different that is well known in the e-commerce packaging market is the multiple touch points that you have for a single product that you don't have when it's going through regular retail distribution. And so a lot of the attention for product protection from the standard distribution is at the secondary packaging stage. Whereas within e-commerce, it's the primary package that usually has the multiple touch points and goes through a little bit more rigor because of that. So one thought process for designing specifically for e-commerce would be to put a little bit more attention on the protection at the primary pack level rather than at the shipping level. And as we get into some examples, we'll show you why. Lastly, sustainability. You cannot talk about anything in packaging these days, really, without talking about sustainability. E-commerce grocery is no different than that. So one of the things that we're seeing is greater attention at the consumer level on sustainability, and a lot of this came up because of the pandemic. They started getting these shipments at home. They started seeing or realizing more of these shipments at home. As the e-commerce sales grew, they were getting more of these shipments and realizing, oh my God, I'm responsible now for disposing of the package rather than, the store disposing of the shipment package. And what do I do with this? How do I handle this? So sustainability actually for e-commerce got a lot of negative attention during the pandemic, and a lot of companies have realized this and are working very hard to counter that. One gentleman, Miles Cohen, who's the founder of a consulting firm called Circular Ventures, gave a quote to one of my colleagues. She's not here right now, but Mariah from Packaging Dive. She sat in on the earlier session, and in one of the articles that they did, they quoted Miles Cohen as saying, "There's a lot of environmental pressure for e-commerce to reduce the size of packaging. This is particularly noteworthy for corrugated because compared with mass retail, like big box stores, corrugated has dismal recycling rates from residential households." So this is something that has, gotten major attention these days. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as I go along through some of the examples. But the folks at Amazon have known this for a while and have been taking action to fix this for quite a while. In between 2015 and 2021, so the pandemic was in there for a bit, Amazon reduced its per shipment packaging weight by 38%. Corrugated boxes, this was the interesting statistic that I wanted to share. Corrugated boxes were used for 43% of the shipments, while flexible mailers, both the paper-based as well as plastic, so we're talking envelopes or bags, however you want to phrase it, were used 49%. And to be honest with you, I would never have guessed at those percentage rates. I would have thought that corrugated box, based on the shipments that I received from Amazon, I would have guessed that the corrugated boxes percentage would be much higher still. But they really have made a lot of effort to reduce that. And again, they're doing this by packaging weight. They're measuring it by packaging weight. So I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, we're going to move on now and talk about some examples. And here's one that I really liked. I should get there. So Blue Apron, they celebrated their 10th anniversary and worked with me to tout the improvements that they've made in their meal kit packaging over the last 10 years. And here are some of the highlights of it. In 2021, they announced their goal for 2025. A lot of companies have a 2025 sustainability goal. A lot of that is tied into the Ellen MacArthur Foundation initiative. And Blue Apron wanted 100% of its meal kit boxes, okay, so it's very specific on the type of packaging that they're talking about here, recyclable, reusable, or compostable by the end of 2025. And one of the ways that they wanted to get there was by incorporating the how to recycle label to identify on the packages what the end user, the customer, is how they're to dispose of this. And again, just by a quick show of hands, could I ask How many of you are familiar with the How to Recycle label? Okay, most of you are not. It is the most elegant, space-saving way of communicating how to dispose of a package to consumers. I can't say enough about this. It's an initiative by the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, and you have to go through a process to get permission to put the How to Recycle label on your packages. It is certified, but it's simple. You can have multiple materials and still identify what materials within a group package are recyclable and which ones aren't. And the whole idea is, even you think to yourself, at least I thought to myself, why would a company want to tell customers that their packaging is not recyclable? Well, not all municipalities recycle, not all packaging materials can be recycled within different municipalities as well. And the whole idea is, you're not telling the customer that it's not recyclable, you're telling the customer how to dispose of it. And if it's not recyclable, dispose of it a different way, usually, garbage, landfill. Anyway, but it's a very elegant label. You can see the size is a little misleading here because that's a call out. It's very small on packages, and yet very effective in communicating what needs to be communicated from a recycling point of view. And I believe it's How to Recycle, spelled as it is here on the slide. .info is the website for that. The second thing that they did was they came out with paper-based liners which were 100% recyclable. And my mistake here on this slide, I should have added another word in here that's absolutely critical, and that word is curbside. So one of the things about recycling at the consumer level is you want it to be as easy as possible, as simple as possible for them to do that. And for the vast majority of the time, that means throw it in the bin that goes out to curbside. So curbside recyclable was very important. And then I like to point this out because e-commerce packaging, we've been talking a lot from a sustainability and a product protection point of view, but the other aspect of it, like almost any package, has a marketing value to it. And so Blue Apron has custom designs for some special edition meal kits that they come up with. They had one for, I don't know if you can see it well enough, for lobsters, summertime, and then in the fall they had a football, some kind of kit that was special for the football season. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, so a little earlier I mentioned there are some specialty retailers. Nom Nom is one of them. Nom Nom is a healthy, fresh food for dogs company, and the fresh food, healthy fresh food, is formulated by top board-certified veterinary nutritionalists. I don't even know such a thing was possible, but there we go. And a couple of years ago, they worked with one of their packaging suppliers, Temper Pack, and developed a way of handling a mixed load, ambient as well as perishable, in the same package. And you can see from the call out here how they've designed it. And obviously each order is going to be slightly different, but it's just the way they build the way they pack and build each box here. They do have several different box heights that they have to go to, depending on how many products are in the pack. Protected both physically as well as temperature-wise as well. Temperature-wise, where it needs to be protected. for the refrigerated things. And again, keyword there, curbside recyclable, 100% of the package. Okay, this one, I actually have to look at my notes on my phone. This was a brand new development that I just learned about last week and wanted to include. So on June 1st, Walmart announced 5 new measures to reduce packaging waste that is associated with their online orders. And I have to be honest with you, a lot of these measures I think are a little late in coming. They're a little bit behind the times, but they're finally doing them. And you know, with Walmart being, I believe, the second largest e-commerce retailer here in the United States, Amazon being first, Walmart being a very close second. Anything that they do, anytime they do it, is going to make a difference. It's going to have an impact. So the 5 things that they did is they're moving from plastic to recyclable paper mailers. I'm not sure how that got caught off there. Sorry about that. And by doing this, they're expected to eliminate 65 million plastic bag mailers, or another measurement, 2,000 tons of plastic from circulation here in the U.S. only by the end of this year. So again, they do anything and it's going to have an impact. They're right-sizing boxes. Again, this technology has been around for a long time. I'm surprised that they're just now getting around to it. They're giving the customers the option to consolidate shipping on their orders, which again, for e-commerce grocery probably means that they're having more single orders that have both perishable and ambient products, shelf-stable products in the same order. And you know, if they're not designing that for that kind of a shipment, that they need to design it for that. Another thing is they're opting out of single-use plastic bags for online pickup orders. So I called them and said, all right, you're not giving them plastic bags. What are you giving them? Nothing. So what do you mean nothing? They come and they bring their reusable bags or totes, and it's their responsibility to get the products home however they get them home. Okay, all right. You will see I have another example of the companies putting the onus on the customer for the packaging, and I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. The other thing that they're doing is instituting last mile delivery efficiencies, and what this means is that they're using artificial intelligence to identify when an item that's purchased online can be fulfilled from a nearby store instead of a fulfillment center. And as you all know, the Walmart stores are everywhere. Personally, I thought their fulfillment centers were pretty well located throughout the country too, but the stores, again, much more local, so of course that makes sense. Technology is helping them get there, and this reduces both the number of miles that are driven and the number of boxes that are used for shipment. So Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods, which are, you know, together, they're still separate, but they're together. Amazon owns Whole Foods these days. And give me 1 second, please, I'm sorry. I'm a little slow in my, okay, here we go, in my notes. Okay, so Amazon, #1 e-tailer out here in America, and they have earlier this year raised the threshold for free delivery to $150 per order. It used to be, depending on the area that you were at, either $30 or $50. They had a minimum, you know, order to get it, the delivery for free. So they raised that threshold I'm not sure how that's affected their sales yet. Obviously, they haven't shared any of those sales numbers yet, but it'll be interesting to see that. But what they have is they have both attended and unattended delivery. They ensure, guarantee, I guess is a better word, let's just use that. They guarantee that the perishables are kept at proper temperature during transit. I had the photo mistimed with the text. Online, their Amazon brand, a private label, is very well represented for ordering and sales, and very much sustainability minded, as we heard some of the numbers earlier about what they're doing from a package reduction point of view. But here's the issue that I have here, especially with a company that's considered the leader, that their website says, you ask, how long will my order stay at proper temperature in the packaging? Our packaging is designed to keep your delivery at the proper temperature during transit. Please be sure to chill any perishables upon delivery. So they're saying that they're keeping this at the temperature during transit. And I think it might be different area to area. But I called a Whole Foods stores in my area to just ask a couple more questions, like how does this actually work? And they pick the order, keep it refrigerated until the Amazon delivery person comes. Whole Foods, at least in this particular instance, is being delivered by an Amazon person, which actually was not an Amazon car or van, it was the individual's car. Okay, that bothered me a little bit right there. So it's a refrigerated vehicle? Oh no, it's not a refrigerated vehicle. Okay, so how do you keep the product refrigerated during transit? Well, it's in, paper bags. Just like you would take your groceries home from the store. And the thing about the deliveries is because they're so local, he might have a couple, or the driver, might have a couple of stops, but there's a window of when they have to get those delivered. And it's no different than if you were going to be bringing your groceries home and, had maybe stop for gas or, stop at a different store and pick something up. So that's one of the reasons why I'm a little concerned about food safety. So maybe it's just me, I don't know. Okay. My last example here, earlier I had talked about there's been some technologies, a lot of development in temperature shipments technologies in the healthcare industry. This is just one example, just a real quick one I wanted to show you. It was introduced last year. It's called the Ember Cube. And what it does, in addition to being sustainable because it's reusable, and actually they say that they would like this to be reused hundreds of times. I'm not sure if that's even possible or not, but hundreds of times. And that's a way of reducing single-use packaging, which I get, it's a thing from a sustainability point of view. But it's the security here that I think is interesting to me. I don't know if it's something that would be I think it might have limited applicability, but it might have security, like if you're buying high-end liquor or wines from around the country, whatever, that you might want that secure angle. And what it's using is cellular technology to keep track of the shipment. And one of the things that they tout about that particular technology, cellular technology for this example, is that you're able to predict any temperature deviations because you know what route it took, at what time, and you know what the temperature was at those times. So, it's a matter of, data logging and keeping track of all of that. So I guess the one thing that I like about this is it has a little bit more of that tracking, that temperature tracking that I like. Okay, so one of the best parts of the presentation for me was to think a little bit about the future. That's what we've been seeing. What do we think that's coming? And I do think that we're going to be seeing more flexible packaging because of the inherent advantages that it might have from a e-commerce small parcel shipping environment point of view. So most of the flexible packages as they're created have hermetic seals, so you know that it isn't going to leak, whereas a lot of rigid containers that are capped, whether or not they have an inner seal, could potentially leak during small parcel shipment. One of the things that's different between the unitized pallet load method of delivery, distribution versus small parcel is in the unitized pallet load, your bottles are packed upright and then held that way. In small parcel, the bottle is put into a box. It could be in any orientation. It might not leak when it's standing up, but you lay it down and maybe it does. You lay it down, you put it in a box, and you put something heavy on it, maybe it's going to leak. So I think we will see more flexible packaging because of that. Where and when? I mean, there's been a switch over to flexible packaging for sustainability reasons in a lot of different product categories anyway. So not surprised on that one. One thing that I do wonder, though, is if we will see more cold seal flexible packages instead of heat seal. On that one, I don't know, because heat seal, you have the benefit, I think, of the more hermetic seal. So I'm kind of on the fence about that one. We are seeing more concentrated products, again, in general. It allows companies to shrink the size of their packages from a sustainability point of view, cost point of view. There's a lot of advantages there. And I think we're going to see something similar for e-commerce. One of the things that I wonder about, though, is if we'll see maybe more collapsible packages. So the package is collapsed already. You have your concentrated product in there. It's shipped very efficiently. Consumer gets it home, opens up the package, expands the package, fills it with whatever else needs to be reconstituted in there, if it needs any reconstitution, and goes from there. So again, efficiency and the size, I think. So we're talking grocery, which could be, as I mentioned earlier, either shelf stable or refrigerated. Could be frozen, perishable. I shouldn't say just refrigerated, perishable. So either refrigerated or frozen. And there are some packaging technologies out there that have existed for decades, and decades, probably longer, that allow you to have a perishable product in a shelf-stable package. Specifically, I'm talking about aseptic, and I am I won't lie, I'm a fan of aseptic packaging. To take a refrigerated product and make it shelf-stable, save all the costs and the extra safety issues with having to distribute it through refrigeration. And then freeze-dried products. It's, again, similar to concentrated, but maybe a little bit different from a food formulation point of view. And again, I just see a lot of value in that for e-commerce shipping, size and sustainability related. And with the freeze-dried, you're replacing a lot of liquids that could potentially leak in some cases, not always, with powders, which I like. Okay, another one, and I'm almost done here. The I think we are going to be seeing, because these fulfillment centers are highly automated and getting more and more automated these days, I think that whatever primary pack you're going to have, or whatever pack you're going to have that's going to ship, because in some other product categories, Amazon has been encouraging their vendors to create packaging that the product package can ship as is. It doesn't have to be placed into another shipping container. They call that ships in own container, also known as SIOC, that goes by the initials. And so with this automated fulfillment, you're going to want products that can be automated, can be handled by robot and other mechanical ways. So I think that, does this counter what I said earlier about seeing more flexible packages? Are flexible packages easy to handle mechanically? Depends on how you're handling it. Maybe rigid is what you need from that point of view. So obviously I don't have it all figured out, just throwing out ideas there. And then this last one for reusable packaging, I think this has most promise in the grocery delivery, local delivery application. I don't know how many e-tailers or diet management firms, meal kit providers, I don't think that they can, there's no second, the return shipment is kind of like a waste for them to invest in reusable packaging. So, but we have been seeing more, and actually, I don't know if you remember that Walmart delivery van, he had totes where he had the bags in the totes, and those totes are reusable that Walmart is going to reuse. So we'll see if we're going to see more of that going forward. But bottom line for me is I do believe that we are going to be seeing a lot more packages, both primary packages and maybe even a secondary package that is designed very specifically for the unique environment of the e-commerce channel. And that's as compared with what is known as omni-channel. You design one package and it's distributed multiple ways. But I think we're going to be seeing packages designed specifically a lot more in the future for the e-commerce delivery. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have. We can talk about e-commerce packaging in general. We could talk about e-commerce grocery. We could talk about packaging in general. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can talk about packaging for months. Yes?
Thank you for your talk today.
Thank you.
I think I understand what a heat seal is.
Yes.
Can you give some examples of cold seals?
Yes. An adhesive seal basically is a cold seal, where instead of using heat to join the two layers, you're using an adhesive. There's so many different types, but I can't remember how long ago because the years run all together, but the candy industry, candy bar industry, moved over to, for the most part, moved over to cold seal. So if you get a Mars bar and you open it, that's an example of a cold seal. So, yeah. Thank you for the question. Yes, another one. Thank you.
You mentioned Ember.
Yes.
In the store. Could you just walk through that supply chain and what happens to the box if it's delivered to a person?
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for that, because I do have that information. I just didn't know how much, how time-wise, how I was doing. So I didn't want to go over. I have a tendency to talk too much and go over. But it's cellular communication, and it reports GPS location as it goes along, which is just what cellular does. And each cube, the outer cube is made, the shell is made from expanded polypropylene foam. So, I had a question here where I said disposal question mark, and then, I didn't want to get into it. But I'm not sure if they want to use it hundreds of times, eventually you're going to have to dispose of it. How? But even if you do use it multiple times, again, with this kind of environment, which I would call a rugged environment, it's going to get beat up a little bit, so I'm not sure. But the cool thing about this package is it has what they call the return to sender button, and it generates a return shipping label on the built-in e-screen. There's a screen built into the package, and it tells a third-party shipping company to pick up the cube at those specific GPS coordinates. So that's how it works. Thank you for asking. And that cube is available in multiple sizes too. So I just showed the one size. So, and it's rated to keep the thermoelectric refrigeration system at temperatures between, especially for sensitive temperature sensitive meds, between 2 and 8 degrees centigrade, which I can't do the math to change that into Fahrenheit. Even I'd need Google for that. So anyway, thank you for the question. Anything else? Ta-da! That's it. Done. Thank you. Appreciate your attention.